Incredible moment, billionaire's son reveals hidden truth about his black girlfriend's bracelet. Jake stood at the edge of the party, the lights twinkling like stars trapped in glass. The music pulsed through him, a soundtrack to his internal struggle. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration, but as he adjusted the bracelet around his wrist, a gift from Maya, everything shifted. It sparkled under the chandeliers, its intricate carvings telling stories of resilience and love, yet he felt the weight of disapproval pressing down. When Maya handed him the bracelet, her smile lit up the dim room. "It belonged to my grandmother," she had said, her voice a mix of pride and vulnerability. "She fought for our dreams." Jake felt honored and connected, the bracelet almost singing reminders of history and hope. But now, amidst the elites of Silicon Valley, it stood out like a beacon for judgment. "What kind of joke is this?" someone sneered behind him. Jake turned, catching snickers and sideways glances. The laughter stung more than he expected. "Can you believe he's dating her?" The words were laced with disdain. Each vicious whisper cut deeper, creating jagged wounds in his heart. He wrestled with the swelling pride he felt for Maya, mixing painfully with the fear of retaliation from his world. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As the party went on, Jake found himself retreating, hiding the bracelet beneath the cuff of his shirt. A sickening twist curled in his stomach every time he glanced at Maya across the room. The joy in her eyes when she'd seen the bracelet gave way to confusion, then hurt. "Jake, what's wrong?" she asked softly, stepping closer. A question he couldn't answer as he felt the eyes of the elite bore into him, hunger for gossip fueling their glances. At home that night, the walls echoed with his father's disappointment. "You're throwing away your future," his father said, adorned in expensive suits, as if putting a price on family expectations. The words sliced through Jake. He felt torn as the weight of legacy landed squarely on his shoulders. "You need to rethink your choices," his father added, disapproval painting the atmosphere thick with judgment. The tension churned in Jake's mind. Family gathering after gathering turned into a battleground where he fought against traditions. Yet every affectionate moment with Maya felt like soft light in his darkening world. House parties and charity events transformed into silent pleas for understanding. How could love blooming in chaos bring such certainty but also such confusion? It all exploded on the night of his family's grand celebration. As ancestral portraits gazed down, Jake learned the shocking truth of the bracelet. It was not just an heirloom, it belonged to Maya's grandmother, a civil rights activist. Struggles, victories, her spirit woven into that metal circlet. "Do you think you're better than us now?" a voice shouted, piercing the air, snapping him back to reality. That moment pulled him apart. He could either retreat into conformity or courageously step into the love waiting behind him. With unshed tears in his eyes, he felt the ache of his heart battling the world's expectations. What would he choose? Would he fight for Maya, or was fear stronger than the undeniable connection between them? Jake's heart raced as he stood there, the murmurs of the crowd crashing against him like waves. He could feel the weight of the moment, the gaze of his family and friends drawing tighter around him. Every whisper flared another doubt within him. Would he let those stifling expectations dictate his happiness? Maya, sensing his turmoil, reached for his hand. Her warmth melted some of the ice encasing his heart. "Jake, don't let them," she started, but the rest of her words faded in the haze of his thoughts. "Don't let them what?" he said, frustration seeping into his voice. "Don't let them judge. Don't let them make me feel guilty for loving you." His grip on her hand tightened. He wasn't angry with her, he was angry at a world that painted love in shades of judgment. A silence enveloped them, the music pulsating softly in the background. Jake could see the worry etched on her face, and it twisted his insides. I'm sorry, Maya, he whispered, guilt crashing over him. I don't know if I can handle this. She squeezed his hand back, her eyes glistening. We don't have to go through this alone, she said, her voice steadier than he felt. They'll never understand what we have, but that's okay. If we fight together, maybe we can show them. Jake looked around at the room filled with familiar faces, and yet they felt so foreign now. Would his friends really turn their backs if he chose to stand by Maya? The thought hung heavy. What if I lose everything? He asked. The fear of stripping away layers of his life left him feeling vulnerable. Everything worth having comes with a risk, Maya replied softly, encouraging him to see the larger picture. You have to decide what you value more, their approval or your happiness. Her words struck a chord deep inside him. Suddenly, the bracelet on his wrist felt less like a weight and more like an emblem of what they could build together. A surge of determination filled him, a flood washing over the doubts that threatened to drown him. He took a deep breath, feeling an ember of resolve heat his insides. Let us do this, he said finally, his voice steadying. She smiled, a beautiful light breaking through the overcast of anxiety. Together? Together, he promised, his heart racing not out of fear anymore, but with hope. They turned to face the crowd, ready to confront whatever came next. But then from the back, a figure strode forward, Jake's mother. Her face, usually masked with the confidence of social circles, was now marked by disbelief. What are you doing? She demanded, her voice shrill as it sliced through the tension. You can't be serious about this. Jake felt the floor drop beneath him. His mother's words were a dagger that threatened to unearth every doubt he thought he'd buried. All eyes turned toward them, and for a split second, he faltered. I'm serious, Mom. I love her. The honesty of his words surprised him, yet he felt more empowered than ever. Staring into his mother's shocked face, Jake sensed the room around him hold its breath. Would he truly fight for the love that felt right? Would he face the scrutiny of his choices? A mixture of fear and exhilaration coursed through him. Maya, I need you, he said, drawing strength from her steady presence beside him. Yet, before they could face the storm ahead, he saw the quick flicker of a phone camera aimed at them. The initial whispering morphed into a harsher buzz, capturing the moment. What would become of them now? As Jake clenched Maya's hand, the intensity of the room pressed in around them like a wild tide waiting to crash. Would love triumph against the looming shadows of judgment, or would they be swept away in the prevailing currents of expectation? The stakes just got higher. What would the next revelation bring? A suffocating silence settled over the crowd, a collective gasp echoing through the air. Jake could feel the judgment radiating like heat waves. He steadied himself, hoping the words he'd just uttered would somehow shield him from the storm, but what was it really going to change? Jake, this isn't the place for this, his mother said, her voice sharper than he had ever heard it. The concern etched into her features morphed into a mix of anger and disbelief. You need to think about your future. His heart sank. Why couldn't she just see how much Maya meant to him? Every word from her felt like a chain pulling him back into the shadows from which he finally started to emerge. He glanced at Maya, her grip on his hand reassuring yet firm. She was an anchor in the turbulent waters of doubt swirling around them. Mom, my future includes Maya. I can't just disregard who I love to fit into some mold. He choked on the words, the enormity of what he was saying crashing over him. But this isn't a decision you make lightly. She retorted, the desperation creeping into her voice. The crowd, now murmuring, seemed to sway with her words, each person weighing in with their own opinions. Mom, this isn't just about you. He shot back, his own voice rising. The initial shock felt like it had sparked something in him, a fire that had been waiting to be unleashed. I have to live my life for myself, not for the approval of others. Tension thickened in the air as he stood there, breathing heavily. A knot of worry formed in his stomach. Was this really the battle he wanted to fight now? Maya stepped forward, drawing his mother's gaze. "I understand this is hard for you," she said, her tone soft yet fierce. "But Jake and I, what we have is real. We may be different in many ways, but that shouldn't matter." Jake felt a rush of gratitude. Her bravery began to overshadow his fears. Her courage ignited more hope in him, a new strength blossomed. "Different?" Jake's mother scoffed softly, disbelief slick on her words. "That's the issue. People will talk, they'll judge. Let them." Jake interrupted, his conviction surprising even him. "If they want to judge us because of the color of Maya's skin, then that's on them. I refuse to let fear dictate who I love." For a moment, the world around him seemed to blur as he focused just on Maya. The way she stood there unyielding and bold spoke volumes about her spirit, a beautiful spirit he admired more than he could put into words. She deserved to be celebrated, not hidden away, but he could still feel the quiet tension from the crowd, the whispers intensifying, fueled by the shock of the moment. The camera lens captured every reaction, every flicker of emotion on everyone's faces. Just as he contemplated the overwhelming implications of this public spectacle, a voice cut through the buzz. "Hey, what's the deal?" Mark, one of his closest friends, pushed his way through the crowd. "You're not seriously going to?" "Yes, I am," Jake said, breaking the silence with a strength he hardly recognized. "I'm not letting anything come between us. We're together, and that's the way it's going to be." The words hung in the air, bold and unapologetic. A ripple of murmurs coursed through the crowd, each person trying to process the weight of his declaration. Maya turned to him, her eyes wide with emotion, a blend of pride, love, and uncertainty. Jake suddenly, a blaring voice from across the room interrupted, a rogue news reporter seizing the moment. "What prompted this sudden announcement? Is this a rebellion against your family's expectations?" Jake felt his world tilt. Was this a media circus now? He stole a glance at Maya, their love was not a performance. Yet the spotlight felt inescapable. Is this love worth the scrutiny? The reporter pressed, eyes gleaming with the thrill of the story. The pressure swelled as Jake tried to respond. With the eyes of the crowd and the camera now laser-focused on him, he could feel a familiar fear clawing at him again, but also a growing strength. "Wait," he started, new questions flooding his mind, mixing with his resolve. What does love really mean when everyone else seems to decide what it should look like? And with that tension still thick in the air, Jake braced himself. What awaited them outside this electrifying moment? Would they emerge feeling even more empowered, or would the weight of scrutiny crush their beginnings? The answer felt just beyond reach, waiting in the uncertainty ahead. Jake's heart raced as the camera flash popped like fireworks in the air. He felt trapped in a surreal moment, a moment that seemed caught between acceptance and rejection. The crowd's eyes bored into him, some curious, some judgmental. The electric buzz of curiosity sent shivers down his spine, though it was Maya's warm grip anchoring him that kept the dread at bay. "Jake," she started, searching his face, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe we should just know." He interrupted, a fervor surging within him he hadn't expected. "This is our moment. We can't back down now." He took a deep breath, dipping deep into his pool of conviction. He looked into Maya's eyes, losing himself in her strength. She deserved this fight as much as he did. He could feel the crowd's breath hitch with anticipation, their reaction hanging delicately in the balance. People will always talk. They'll always have opinions, Jake shouted over the growing noise. But we have to define love for ourselves. Not them. Mark, standing a step back, nodded solemnly, his brow furrowed. "This is brave, man. But are you ready for what comes next? The backlash? Your family?" Jake threw a glance at his mother, her face twisted in disbelief, struggling to reconcile her love for him with her fear of what this meant. "I don't care if they don't understand. I'm sick of living under expectations that suffocate me." The reporter shifted closer, eager to dig deeper into the story. So you're willing to sacrifice your family for this relationship? What if it doesn't work out? Something shifted in Jake's gut, a mix of rage and vulnerability. This isn't some downturn in a story. This is real. He spat, the swell of emotion spilling over in waves. I'm not worried about the what-ifs. Love isn't about convenience or fitting into boxes. It's messy, and it's real. Maya smiled subtly, pride illuminating her eyes, her presence invigorated by his defiance. Exactly, she chimed in, stepping a little closer. Why should our happiness ever be questioned? Just because it doesn't fit someone else's narrative? Around them, whispers turned into discussions, opinions sliding from uncertain to curious, like a pendulum swinging. Jake lowered his voice, focusing only on Maya, warding off everything else. I'd rather face scrutiny with you by my side than walk away from what we've built. Feeling the weight of the moment, he turned back towards the crowd, his voice steady, but emotion still warming his words. If it takes this confrontation for people to see us our love, then so be it. We're here, and we aren't going anywhere. The response was a mixture of applause and murmurs, hesitant at first but strengthening as the crowd processed it. One voice shouted out above the rest, "You do you, man." Others followed, some supportive, while others hissed, but the stirring momentum was undeniable. Suddenly, his mother stepped into view, her features softening ever so slightly, but her eyes still held a storm. "Jake, please," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "It doesn't have to be this way." But he wasn't ready to retreat. "Mom, it does. I love Maya. And if you want to know me, this is who I am." The tension thickened as she faltered, caught between wanting to protect her son and confronting her own prejudices. Jake read the change in her expression, the fight beginning to ebb, replaced by a glimmer of understanding. But was it enough? The reporter rushed in again, sensing vulnerability. "So, would you say this moment of truth changes everything for your family dynamics, Jake?" Jake felt the heat rise in his chest. What did everything really mean? Family ties, love, acceptance, were they all so disconnected? Before he could answer, a voice from deep within the crowd broke through the noise, challenging and empowering. What if this is just the beginning? Jake froze, a thought compelling him. Was this truly just a vocal stand against what had always been expected of him? Or was it something significantly bigger, an opening act to a life he could redefine? As he considered this, his heart raced. He was ready to fight not just for himself and Maya, but for something much larger than either of them combined. How many more voices were out there, waiting to join this symphony of change? What would happen when the spotlight truly shone on the real issues of love versus judgment? With such thoughts churning in his mind, Jake felt the momentum shift. Was it about to become bigger than he ever imagined? Hope surged high, uncertainty flickering in its wake. The real battle was just beginning, and the world was watching. The energy in the crowd tightened, faces shifting, feelings boiling over. The echo of the voice lingered, sparking an internal fire within Jake. He felt a wave of determination wash over him, almost infectious, as whispers grew louder and erupted into a swell of conversation. It was no longer just about him and Maya. It was about everyone who had ever felt the weight of judgment for simply being themselves. Maya squeezed his hand tighter. "Jake, are you sure about this? Your mom." "I know," he replied, his heart thumping in sync with the restless crowd. "But what if this is more than just a moment? What if we can really change something?" He turned back to face the crowd, their expressions a swirl of curiosity and disbelief, but something had shifted. Hope flickered where doubt once shrouded the moment. "Let me ask you all a question," he began, voice steady with each word, grabbing the audience's attention like a magnetic pull. "How many of you have ever felt like you had to hide who you are to fit in? How many people here have felt the pressure to fall into someone else's vision of what love should be? Raise your hands." A few tentative hands went up at first, but as he continued, more and more shot up, lighting up like fireflies in the deepening dusk. This isn't just my fight, Jake said, adrenaline fueling him further. It's ours. All of ours. Love is about connection and understanding. It's about being brave enough to stand up, say who you are, and refuse to let the world dictate your worth. The crowd erupted, a wave of voices inundating the air, some cheering, others still uncertain, but curiosity rapidly overshadowed skepticism. In the back, Jake noticed a woman with tears streaming down her face, her hand clenching a crumpled sign that simply read love. He locked eyes with her for a heartbeat, and in that instant, an unspoken bond formed, a silent understanding that resonated deeply. Mark stepped up beside him, voicing what they all felt. We're not just all rooting for Jake and Maya. We're fighting for our own identities too. The resonance of unity surged through the crowd, sparking a communal energy that felt almost electric. Buzzing chants began to rise, echoing through the crowd, hearts pounding in sync. Jake glanced at Maya. She was beaming, soaking in the moment, her eyes glistening with something profound, a mixture of pride and empowerment. Suddenly, Jake's mother spoke up, her voice wavering yet strong. Jake, maybe I don't understand, but I want to try. Can we talk? The crowd quieted, all eyes now on her. It was a fragile truce, a bridge yet to be formed. Mom, he replied, voice softening, feeling the gravity of her words. This is all I've wanted. For you to truly see me. Maya nodded slowly, squeezing Jake's hand again, anchoring him amidst this emotional storm. As the crowd began to settle, Jake felt a tug of urgency. The moment felt ripe, like a weight lifting from his shoulders, replaced by a heady mixture of exhilaration and vulnerability. What if this truly is just the beginning? He asked, breathing in the collective anticipation. What happens next? Are we ready to keep fighting? The crowd stirred again, a dynamic force shifting. The voices didn't just rise, they morphed into something significant, a clarion call for all those who had ever felt unseen. Jake knew they stood on the cusp of something pivotal, but just how far would this reach? What ripples would their words create beyond this moment? As Jake's gaze searched the crowd, finding allies in unexpected places, the realization hit him hard: they were not just changing minds. They were igniting a movement. And as the energy soared, a new thought crossed his mind: was this their moment, or was the real moment yet to come? What awaited them just beyond this first wave of courage? With that question hanging in the air, the tension shifted to exhilaration, showing Jake that the journey was only beginning. Would they be ready for the challenges yet to unfold? He could feel it brewing: the excitement, the determination, a promise. Maya stepped forward, gently urging Jake to look back at her. You have this, Jake. We all believe in you, she whispered, her voice steady, yet filled with an urgency that tugged at his heart. Jake nodded, his pulse quickening, a wave of gratitude washing over him. He was at the center of something monumental. The crowd simmered with anticipation, a living organism fueled by emotion and shared hope. It was electric. Let us march forward, together. He shouted, feeling the momentum pulse through every vein in his body. The crowd erupted again, a chorus of voices blending into a symphony of solidarity. People were raising their signs now, hands reaching for the sky as if to touch something larger, something transformative. Some shouted words of encouragement, while others cheered with abandon, letting their hope spill over in shouts and claps. For Jake, it was overwhelming and exhilarating all at once. Can you turn that hope into action? Jake implored, drawing more from the crowd. Can you each take a piece of this moment with you, wherever you go? Spread it. Share it. Let us not let our voices fade into whispers again. Mark gave Jake a squeeze on the shoulder, stepping up to the front next to him. We are not alone. Each heart here knows what it's like to fight for acceptance and love. It was as if each word lifted the crowd higher, their fervor igniting kindling in the air. With every beat of his heart, Jake felt it a promise of change. He could envision it, little moments of courage blossoming across the city, conversations sparked where silence once reigned. He believed in this vision deeply, and the crowd seemed to mirror his conviction, swelling with energy, but then came a voice from the periphery, slicing through the elation. What do you really know about love? A woman with sharp features and an eyebrow raised appeared at the edge, her expression challenging, eyes narrowing in disbelief. Jake faltered, caught off guard. The uncertainty trickled in like icy water. His heart raced, but he knew he needed to respond not just to her, but to everyone watching. What do I know about love? I know it's not easy. I know it can bring you to your knees. But I also know it can lift you higher than you ever thought possible. Jake found his footing again, voice rising, wrapping around the crowd like a warm embrace. Love is messy. It's filled with doubt, judgment, and confusion. But it's also unfathomable joy. He took a breath, locking eyes with the woman, willing her to see it too. It's finding someone who accepts you, who embraces every part of who you are. That's what this is about. He felt the crowd shift, a silent ripple of recognition. They were listening, really listening, grappling with his words. And then something unexpected happened. The woman who had questioned him lowered her head, letting out a tiny sigh, almost imperceptibly, but it was there. The tension dissolved between them, replaced by a cautious understanding. A few people clapped softly, and more soon followed, creating a wave of support that surged through the crowd. Jake's heart soared. In that instant, he felt a new wave of connection. This moment wasn't just about him or Maya, or even his mom. It was about everyone, a shared human condition to be understood and loved. Maya gently pulled him back, her eyes glimmering with admiration. You did it, she said, pride radiating from her voice. You really connected with them. But even amidst the cheers, a stirring of uncertainty tugged at Jake. Was it enough? Would the real challenges come crashing down once the crowd dispersed? He scanned their faces, the flicker of excitement mixing with unease, what lay ahead as their voices grew louder. Could they withstand the scrutiny that might follow? And as he stood there, absorbing the energy and warmth surrounding him, a lingering question hovered in the air. Just when he thought they might catch their breath, what obstacles would rise from the electric excitement of this moment? Jake barely had time to revel in the warmth of the crowd's support before the atmosphere shifted once more. A man near the front furrowed his brow, frustration etched into his face as he shouted, "But isn't this just talk? What real change will come from a day like today?" The question cut through Jake's elation like glass. It was a valid concern, one that a heart full of hope had yet to consider. He felt his throat tighten, uncertainty creeping back in. But just as doubt began to settle, he looked around, remembering the weight of the moment, the voices raised, the unity palpable in the air. Change starts here. Jake responded, channeling the fear and urgency into his voice. Change isn't easy, but it starts with each of us deciding not to be silent. It's about shouting from the rooftops that we want a different world, a world that embraces love, no matter what shape it takes. The crowd roared again, and he felt uplifted, but the man wasn't done. Love doesn't pay the bills or solve real issues. What about the future when the cameras turn away? He pressed, his skepticism a challenge. Jake felt a rush of frustration, a plea forming in his head. You're right, he admitted, holding the man's gaze. Love alone won't fix everything. But it can ignite the fire to fuel that change. We have to be brave enough to walk together, to communicate, to advocate. We can't ignore the hard stuff. With love as our guide, we confront those challenges head on. Mark stepped forward again, his eyes fierce with conviction. We're not just sharing a message today. We're forming connections that can empower action. We can start community projects, hold conversations, change laws. But we need to believe in each other first. That hit home. Jake saw nods ripple through the crowd, glimmers of belonging as folks recalled their own struggles and desires. But even as the energy ignited, Jake was aware of the opposing forces at play. He couldn't shake the tension in his chest. How far would this momentum carry them? A distant siren wailed, bringing with it the reminder that not everyone would welcome their bold stand. The words of the woman earlier rang true, love wasn't easy. It demanded resilience, and here stood Jake, a young man, uncertain yet brimming with hope, ready to challenge precisely that. As the last echoes of cheering faded into hopeful whispers, a different voice rang out from within the crowd. What about our safety when we leave here? What if they come after us? The crowd quieted, a harsh reality crashing over the moment. Fear, once hidden beneath exhilaration, now began to surface. Jake felt it too, the electric charge replaced with a weighty severity. Maya's hand squeezed his as she leaned in closer, her voice low but steady. It's okay, Jake. You just have to believe. They're here because they want to stand with us. He wanted to sink into her encouragement, to hold on to that faith that had buoyed him through this journey. But the truth was that sometimes love demanded not just courage, but also an acceptance of risk, an acceptance that could cost them dearly. Jake took a deep breath, searching the sea of faces illuminated by the fading sunlight. We knew this wouldn't be easy, he began, words trembling yet resolute. But we have to decide whether we'll let fear stifle our voices. We're not alone in this fight. The atmosphere shifted yet again, anticipation intermingling with trepidation. Jake still sensed lingering uncertainty, but something else stirred as well, a determination, like an ember slowly catching flame. Would it be enough to unite them in the long run? Just then, a figure stepped forward, dressed in dark clothes, their face obscured by shadows. The crowd tensed, an ominous silence falling and wrapping around them like a heavy fog. Jake's heart raced. Who were they? What more challenges lay ahead? Would this stranger bring them hope or something much darker? The figure lingered at the edge of the crowd, a silhouette against the dimming light. Jake could feel the palpable tension, a collective inhale as every gaze turned toward this newcomer. The whispers grew louder, spreading like wildfire through the thrumming energy of the gathered masses. Maya's grip tightened around his hand, her heartbeat resonating like a drumbeat of anxiety. Who are you? Jake called out, steeling his voice against the tide of uncertainty. Fear and curiosity battled within him. The figure pushed through the throng, stepping into the circle of fading daylight. As they came closer, Jake caught a glimpse of dark hair framing their face, an unsettling beauty paired with an expression that held both concern and defiance. It was a woman, and her eyes glimmered with the weight of truths unspoken. I'm Olivia, she answered, her voice strong yet imbued with a raw edge. And I'm here to tell you that you're not alone, but your fight just got a lot more complicated. What do you mean? Jake asked, his heart racing as he sensed the crowd leaning in, drawn into the gravity of her words. The world felt charged, electric with urgency, and yet filled with apprehension. Olivia inhaled, weighing her answer carefully. I know what it's like to live in the shadows of fear and silence. My father, he's not just another businessman. He leads a powerful organization that profits from division. And just last week, he ordered people to intimidate those who stand for love like all of you. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Jake couldn't help but wonder how deeply her confession cut into the heart of the gathering. Love advocates like him felt vulnerable, and now it seemed they faced the potential wrath of someone's heavy legacy. I understand the risk you're taking today, Olivia continued, her voice taking on an edge of urgency. But I want to help you shift the narrative. My truth is connected to your fight. I want to let my family continue this path. We can disrupt their schemes together. Jake's mind raced. Could she really help dismantle the very forces looming over them? A mix of hope and skepticism stirred within him. The crowd again buzzed, murmurs of disbelief and curiosity floating in the air. Would they accept her offer, or would the shadows of distrust extinguish this flicker of hope? Do you think we can trust you? Someone shouted from behind, the doubt palpable in their tone. I know I have a lot to prove. Olivia's gaze swept over the sea of faces. But my commitment to change is real. It's not just a betrayal of my family, it's a bet on a future that believes in love without compromise. Together, we can start a movement that no one can ignore. Silence fell again, but this time it was different. charged with a sense of possibility. Jake glanced at Maya, whose face reflected a whirlwind of emotions: fear, hope, uncertainty. "What do we do now?" Jake asked, feeling the weight of leadership. His heart raced. The time was ripe for their choices to shape tomorrow. Olivia nodded, sensing the gravity in his voice. "We need to meet tonight under the old oak trees by the park. It's where we can strategize safely. If you believe in this, join me. We can transform fear into action." Jake felt a surge of resolve rising inside him, but doubt still danced at the edges of his mind. Would they really be able to turn this into a movement? Could they truly make change happen in a world that so often resisted it? As twilight deepened, he glanced at the crowd. Each face reflected a flickering candle of hope, yet the danger lurked just out of sight. Would they take the plunge? With rising conviction, Jake took a deep breath. "We're in this together. Whatever happens tonight, we will choose love over fear." And with those words, uncertainty coiled around his heart tighter than ever, but amidst it all, a flame ignited. As murmurs of agreement began to rise, a shadow shifted nearby and a piercing siren echoed again in the distance, a reminder that the past was too easily shaken off. And that was when Jake saw the flicker of menacing dark figures gathering at the outskirts of the park. Would they be ready for the reckoning that awaited them, or would their stand for love be met with the very fears they hoped to escape? The urgency in the air thickened as Jake squinted into the encroaching twilight. He could see the dark figures shifting, their intentions cloaked in the shadows. The murmurs among the crowd intensified, conversations shifting from excitement to dread in a heartbeat. "Maya," he started, but she squeezed his hand tighter, her nails digging into his skin as she stared wide-eyed at Olivia. "Do you really think she can help us?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Jake wanted to comfort her, but his mind was racing. Everything felt precarious, hanging by a thread. "I believe we need to try," he replied, though a part of him was scared they might be stepping into the lioness den. "Let us move toward the oak trees," Olivia urged, her voice steady despite the tremors echoing around them. "We can't let them see us panic. Stay close together." As they began to navigate through the crowd, Jake noticed a group emerging from the shadows. They wore dark jackets, a stark contrast to the vibrant colors of those who had gathered to show support. Their faces were grim, silent sentinels of a threat that loomed larger with each step. Jake's heart hammered in his chest. "Who are they?" Jake asked, trying to keep his voice low. "Those are my father's helpers," Olivia replied, barely concealing her apprehension. "They've been sent to keep tabs on anyone who gets too close to the truth. They won't hesitate to intimidate." Instinctively, Jake stepped closer to Maya, his protective instincts flaring. He could feel the heat radiate from her body, mingling with the tension that hung heavy in the air. They wrapped around each other like vines, seeking solace in their shared fear. "Don't look directly at them," Olivia whispered. "Just keep walking. We need to get to the trees." The closer they got to the park, the more Jake could feel the shift in the atmosphere. It was as if a storm was brewing, both outside and within him. He glanced back one last time, catching the eyes of one of the figures as it turned into the fading twilight. For a moment, time stood still. Jake felt something deep in his gut, a connection, a recognition. He couldn't shake the feeling that their fates were linked. "Jake!" Maya hissed, pulling on his arm to redirect his attention ahead. "Focus." They reached the old oak trees, the gnarled branches stretching out like protective arms, cloaking them in the shadows. Jake's breath came out in a rush, mingling with the rustling leaves. The crowd was gathering, their faces illuminated by the remaining slivers of sunlight, desperation and determination in their expressions. "Everyone," Olivia began, raising her voice to cut through the murmur. "We're running out of time. We have to act before they notice we've all congregated here. We need a plan to disrupt my father's game." Questions bubbled up among the crowd. Jake felt the weight of their gaze, filled with expectation and a hint of skepticism. Could they really make a difference? What if he finds out? Someone called, dread creeping into their voice. The moment he does, Olivia replied, her voice firm with resolve, we'll already be moving. We need courage, not fear. Together, we can spark something bigger. As Olivia's words took root in the hearts of the crowd, Jake felt a flicker of that very courage. But would it be enough? Every heartbeat echoed a question. Were they prepared for what would come next? Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed the dark figures edging closer. Panic squeezed his chest, but he pushed it back. They were ready to fight for something that mattered. Ready or not, change was coming. As the plan formed in hushed whispers among the assembled friends, Jake glanced up. The night sky darkened, the first stars appearing like pinpricks of hope. But in that moment of clarity, a startling realization hit him. What if this fight wasn't just for their love but for something far greater? Just then, a wave of noise rippled through the air, a shrill shout, loud and urgent. A figure burst through the trees, eyes wide with fear, calling out a warning. Jake! They're coming for us. We have to move now. Adrenaline surged through him, the world narrowing to the sound of his racing heart. Could they really dodge the danger lurking just beyond the trees? What would that mean for their newfound mission of love? Jake's heart pounded in his chest as the urgency in the air thickened. Quick! Everyone, stay close! He shouted, rallying the group around him and Maya. The fear coursed through him like ice water, but alongside it, a fierce determination burned bright. They had come too far to turn back now. The dark figures were drawing nearer, and they couldn't let them disrupt what they had ignited together. With Olivia leading the way, they darted between the trees, hearts racing. The crowd moved like a living organism, pushing forward, driven by hope and adrenaline. We need to find a safe place to regroup. Olivia urged, glancing back over her shoulder. The shadows of her father's men loomed in the distance, but they couldn't let fear win. As they hurried deeper into the park, Jake felt Maya's hand still tightly wrapped in his. Every step they took felt heavy with risks, but as he looked around at the faces, each one a mix of fear and resolve, he realized they all felt it too. They were in this together. He took a deep breath, bolstering his courage. We fight for love, for each other, and for everyone who feels they can't be themselves. The roar of agreement rippled through the crowd, charging the night with energy. They paused, waiting for a decision. A flicker of torchlight broke through the trees. The ominous figures were catching up, shouts echoing from behind. Jake turned to Olivia, determination replacing the fear in his gut. We can't back down now. We have to stand for what we believe. Right! Olivia exclaimed, her eyes fierce. We'll create a diversion. Try to keep them busy just long enough for the rest of us to get the samples out. Jake nodded, adrenaline surging as he stepped forward. Listen, we're stronger together. Each person here matters and every voice is powerful. We're not just a group, we're a movement. Maya's grip tightened around his hand, and he could see the spark of defiance in her eyes. Let us show them, she whispered, an undertone of fierce determination igniting within her. They quickly formed a circle, Jake at the center, his voice rising above the murmurs. This is our moment. Let us be the change we want to see. Let us spread the message of love and acceptance. His words acted like a match, setting the passion ablaze among the crowd. Then, just as they steadied themselves and prepared to rush out, the first of the dark figures emerged from the periphery, determination etched across their faces. You think you can change anything? You're wasting your time. One of them taunted, stepping forward. Jake took a step toward them, heart hammering, but there was no backing down. We're not afraid of you. Your fear tactics won't work anymore. We refuse to be silenced. In that moment, something shifted. The murmurs among the crowd turned into shouts of encouragement, a collective roar pushing against the shadows of intimidation. Some who had leaned back suddenly stepped forward, friends gathered like sentinels of hope, standing beside Jake and Maya, ready to support them against the creeping darkness. Push back. Mark shouted from the rear of the group. "Let them know we're here." And just like that, a tide began to turn. The figures recoiled for a moment, surprised at the resilience blooming in the face of their expectation. "This isn't over." One shouted defiantly, but their voices quaked as they did, a hint of uncertainty threading through their threats. Jake looked at Maya, revived passion filling them both. "Let us show them who we are." With every ounce of strength, they took a step forward together, hand in hand, ready to encapsulate the fight for love they had ignited. All at once, the crowd surged, arms raised high, calling out their solidarity. "Love is love. We won't be afraid." The night exploded in a flurry of voices, the darkness overshadowed by the living force of hope and unity. Just as Jake felt that every wall was breaking, a bright flash snapped through the air, a camera, capturing the moment. They were no longer just a band of friends, they were a movement, challenging the very foundations of discrimination. But then came the roar of engines in the distance. The fear that had been a whisper, now a sudden shout. "They're coming. We need to go." With renewed urgency, Jake whispered to Maya, "Let us not look back. We fight for those who can't fight for themselves." Together, they led the charge, hearts pounding but fueled by the fire of their convictions. It may have only been the beginning, but together they felt unstoppable. As long as they stood united, love would always light the way. Jake knew that this was at the moment they transformed from a mere gathering into an unyielding force, ready to enlighten the world that love should never come with a label. As they continued forward, the path ahead filled with gleaming possibilities and a cacophony of newfound voices, Jake felt a surge of hope swell within him. The shimmering stars above served as a reminder, they were not alone. They had each other, and together, they would change the world. Now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire change. Leave a like now and help spread this story's message. Comment below with your thoughts and feelings about this powerful journey. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.